All information given in this episode is for educational purposes and should not be tried prior to consulting a licensed physician and or certified state or accrediting bodies. We encourage all listeners to research, talk, and make all inquiries to all of the important professionals and governing bodies before acting on any information heard on the De La Fit podcast. Any action taken by any listener is done by and under their own omission and action, whether conscious to the results positive or not.
Tuned in to the De La Fit podcasts, 360 degrees of holistic fitness and health, all in one podcast.
Salutations and proclamations. It is I, it is you, it is us, it is we. Together we make up the digital family that is the De La Fit podcast. I'm your host, Philly's #1 son, aka the body alchemist, SunMoon Bey, bringing you another podcast excursion. Welcome everybody back to the 360 degrees of holistic fitness and health. Happy Friday to you. It is August the 21st, 2020, and we have a very unique show for you today. We're going to talk about a lot of changes that's taking place within the De La Fit podcast and just in general. I feel like this is a day to talk about change. And there's many changes that are taking place. For some of you, school is getting ready to kick back up, but many students, at least in the East Coast area, at least in the Philadelphia area, I don't know if it's exactly the same way in New York and other parts of the East Coast. We're paying attention, but in the southeastern district, many students are going to be going back to school virtually, which means, in a sense, homeschooling. And that is going to be a large change that is coming about. A huge change for many individuals coming about. So we're going to be getting into that conversation and talking about that change. Also, sports is back. That's right. Sports is back. But do we really care? Do we really care as individuals about sports anymore? I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm a hometown guy. I'm a homegrown Philadelphian, and I love the hometown boys. I love the Eagles. I love the Sixers. I love the Phillies. But I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't care. Pandemic life has changed so much that, I just don't feel it anymore. I just don't feel it. But it's also another topic we're going to be speaking about today in the wake of change. Also, changes with the De La Fit podcast. That's right. We are coming up on our 9th season. Wow. It's our ninth or 8th season. I think it's our 8th season. I'm sorry. I think it's our 8th season. You're like, wow, you're not really paying attention to that, son. I'm sorry. You have no idea, listeners out there. You have no idea, you guys, how my mind works. All the things that are in my head. Don't judge me, please. Don't judge me. Or rather, judge me, but be kind. Changes within the show. A lot of positive changes. A lot of additions. A lot of moving around. Oh yeah, it's a lot of things that's going to be taking place that we're going to be discussing in this episode of the De La Fit podcast. Who do we have as our guest today? We don't have any specific special guests today, so just because of those changes. But we're going to get into that very soon. But just want to take the time out to say basically that we thank all of you out there who are tuning in to us and who are with us every Friday and who are giving us positive comments and sharing the positivity that this show is about. We thank you so much because you don't have to tune in, and we know you don't have to tune in, but we really appreciate what it is that you're about, or really appreciate the fact that you understand what we're about here at the show. So with that being said, we're going to take some time for the sponsors and then come back, because the topic today is change. What's going on, everybody? It's Philly's #1 son. Listen, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's a creation tool that allows you how to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a stunning podcast in one place. So listen, if you want to be like me and have your own podcast, go to anchor.com. That's anchor.com.
You're now tuned in to the De La Fit podcast.
Welcome back to the 360 degrees of holistic fitness and health that is the De La Fit podcast. The topic is change. That's right. Change is in the air. And let's start with the whole schooling situation. There's going to be, at least in the southeastern states, from the sources that I have, there's going to be a start whereas many children will be going to school virtually. So I think, if I'm correct, right now the plan is for the first half of the school year that children will be starting school online, which means they will be at home in front of their computers or in front of their tablets in their classrooms. Now, I don't necessarily know how it's going to be set up or what they're going to be using. I've heard that there will be, I think, Google Groups is something that they're going to be making use of. But then I'm hearing that the school, at least the school board in Philadelphia, they have a special software or something that they're using. I don't know this firsthand, but I'm hearing it. It doesn't have to be true. But basically, overall, the consensus is that the children will be going back to school virtually during the first half, and then they will be switching to going in to the schools, I think 2 times a week. And the classes may be a little bit smaller, but I think this is going to be a really interesting change in schooling. Now, I'm curious as to how these smaller groups of children are going to be able to interact. And first of all, just how is it going to be going back to school? Let's be real. Many of the children and teenagers were pulled out of school because of the pandemic, and they haven't been in school for, probably 9 going on 9 months now. I think we all, like, officially schools were closed the first week of the pandemic hit the shores of the United States. I mean, seriously, when it really started to spread, which might have been the middle of March, maybe the 3rd week in March. So let's just say safely that schools have been out for, we'll say, maybe 9-10 months. All right. I think maybe about that. And children, teens have not been around each other, have not been in that type of environment for some time. Everything was disrupted. So the thought pattern is, how do they begin to go back? My thoughts, if I was a child, if I was a teen, what am I going back to? How am I going to deal with this? You know, if I was little SunMoon, 10 years old, 8 years old, how would I feel going back to school? Especially with this conversation of wearing a mask. So I have to wear a mask, and I have to be careful of my inner reactions. Remember, how are children going to deal with this whole social distancing thing? Because that's the biggest conversation that I've been hearing from people, is how we're going to deal with the social distancing. Adults themselves had issues dealing with social distancing. I can only imagine in a child's mind, because as a child, social distancing is the last thing that you have in mind. You literally are the opposite of social distancing when you are a child. You are all about being social. You are in somebody's personal space. And I know that just from me being a child. You know, you are all about being close to your friends, to your family, random new people, puppies, cats, kittens, bugs. You're all over everything. I mean, that's just being a child. So how do we begin to teach, or rather to reconnect the dots with our children? How do we get them so that they're not afraid? And how do we begin to start to teach them to function in this society where we are now hypersensitive to illness, bacteria, viruses, based on this whole situation? You know, I've been talking to some of my relatives, and one of them was telling me that their daughter was feeling very, very apprehensive about going back to school. Very apprehensive, you know, because of the thing of what she's been hearing the adults talk about. She's been losing sleep, you know, which is not a good thing for a 5-year-old child. It's not good at all, you know, because this is the other thing I think as adults we also need to remember, is that our children hear everything. They see everything. So how are we dealing with this for them? What are we to start doing that can help them in this whole situation? You know, one of the things I think personally that we need to do is we need to really make sure that we continue to open up and stay connected with our children in communication. Positive communication, building, letting them know, listen, these are the steps that you take to keep yourself safe. These are the things you need to do to keep yourself safe. You know, and maybe one good thing to do, this is just something I'm shooting out there as an idea, I don't know, but something to do with our children, with our younger children, and maybe with our teens is, you know, why don't we start creating kits, like a safety kit, you know, if they are going to be going into an environment around other children and teens, you know, why don't we start doing that? Why don't we create a nice little kit for our child to take with them? We'll call it their very own safety kit. And what it is, it could be alcohol or wipes for your hands, special gloves, their mask, an extra mask, you know, extra gloves, things that we know will allow them to keep themselves feeling safe, feeling comfortable, feeling good. This is something that I think that as a family we can do, and not only just for our children, but we can also do this for ourselves. I mean, listen, when I go to the gym, I pack my gym equipment, but I carry alcohol. I carry other sanitary things just in case, among what the gym has to offer. So I carry my own specialty things to use in conjunction, or in combination, I should say, with what they have at the gym. But just in case the gym doesn't, because there's been a couple times I've went to the gym recently and they might have been out of soap in the whatchamacallit, the soap condense machine, you know, just because so many people are washing their hands, which they should be. But you know, these are things that I don't get hyped up about because I keep my own extra disinfectant soap, things like that. So starting those conversations, creating those type of options for our children, because the thing of it is really to be organized and have a plan. This is the one thing I think we really need to rethink, reorganize, and relook at. Is the fact of, with all of this information that's coming at us, with all of these different types of thought patterns about what the CDC says and what the WHO organization says, and with all these other organizations saying, what this doctor says versus that doctor. And, the basic thing is, what can we control? We know we're in this situation. We can't control anybody else, so we might as well prepare. So the best way to prepare, I would say, for a child and a teenager, listen, here, this is your special kit. You take this with you. Take this with you. Be prepared. Even when it comes to talking with the teenagers, making sure that they feel safe, proper boundaries. And this is another conversation that we need to have with our children and teens. We need to reinstate and bring up the whole conversation of what are proper boundaries and why. I mean, we should already be building those conversations with our children and our teens anyway. But the thing of it is that now, because of the pandemic, we really need to also have these conversations. And if you, if you're a parent and you're kind of like, well, how do I bring up these things? Let's be real. Let's just be honest. A simple, easy, effective way to do this now with our children and teens is to have a conversation and say, listen, we're going to talk about boundaries. And the reason we're going to have this conversation is because of the pandemic. But let's go over the fact of how you feel and the fact of, one, you are an individual. You are an entity, a world of your own, and you need to have and always protect the rights of your individual self. There's a feeling of comfort you should have. Distance is something that should be respected. That's your physical body. Your health is your health, and take it seriously. And if somebody else doesn't take it seriously, don't be afraid to tell or to have a conference or communication to the side, if need be, with the people that can help you feel comfortable. And you can take this as a parent as deeply or as lightly as you want. But I think this is the type of conversations we really need to start discussing with our children, with our teens. Because there is a point where, yes, they will be going back into personal space or interpersonal space with others. So this is something for us to consider, just as our children do eventually go back to school. Because after so long of isolation and quarantining, I mean, human beings, we're amazing individuals. We start to adapt to things really well. I mean, I look at myself. I mean, I'm a person that before this, I was going out to different places. I would stop this place to eat. I would go here in Center City to grab this, and I would go to this market. I would travel to this city here. I mean, at one point in my life, it was nothing to just take a trip to New York City just to have lunch, go to Jersey to grab something, and, go to Atlantic City or, go somewhere else as well. But these are the type of things that we really, this is one of the things that I have to pay attention to because my life has changed. Excuse me, guys, my phone is right there. I need to, forgot to put the old phone down there. But the thing of it is that the adjustment has to be made. And we adjust very quickly. We can adjust very quickly to situations because human beings have that power. So as we've adjusted to quarantining and staying to ourselves and that social distancing, and once we get thrust back out there in the thing of, okay, now I'm interacting with people, there's an anxiety that can build if we're not prepared, because we know how we've gotten used to, okay, stay a distance. Even if you are a person that may not quite believe what's taking place, or you have your own suspicions about pandemic and all these other things, there is still a mindset that you may have that has changed when communicating with your fellow human beings. And these are things we really need to focus on and pay attention to when we're talking with our children. So that's something to think about right there. For the parents out there, and just that conversation, wondering how you all feel about that. You can always contact us. Y'all know how to contact us via the email which is daylifit13@gmail.com. Next up, change is a coming. I wish I had the song so I could cue it up, but guess what? I will be able to do that soon, because the De La Fit podcast is moving back to its original studio. I should say to its new studio, which is now not so new anymore, but it's moving back to its studio that is based in Center City, Philadelphia, Fashion District. That's right. We will be there. We will be there soon. Well, not even soon. We're there. So we're having our first actual session of recording, which will be on the 23rd, if I am correct. No, the 25th. And we will be back in there, and in the studio, and it will be an exciting time. It will be an exciting situation. I'm super excited about us going back to the studio, and one of the changes dealing with that is the fact of being in the studio. We will be now, or I should say, one of the changes that we have in addition to being back in the studio is how the show will be arranged. We will be doing more video shows or video presentations as well. So the De La Fit podcast will now be on Roku TV, and we're also exploring other platforms as well, but we will be on Roku TV starting the second week of September on LPT Network. That is Live, Prosper, and Thrive Network. There's a new network, and they are building their roster, and they have reached out to us, and they've got some great content that is coming, and I can't wait. But I'm super excited because we were also handpicked to be part of this. So it's going to be such an exciting new time for the De La Fit podcast, and we're going to be interviewing so many more guests. We're planning on new shows, new types of interactions with people, new segments. So with all this being said, this is the change that we were talking about. The De La Fit podcast is going to have a variety of guests and just a new look. If you follow us on Instagram or Facebook, you probably saw the intro has changed. That's one of the great things. And we have even newer changes that I just got made aware of, which are coming in. So super excited about this, super positive about this as we're going and as we're moving. And the only reason we were able to do this is because of the individuals out there, you who pay attention to us, who are our fans, and who stay close, and you promote us and you talk about us and you tune in every week. So I'm super excited about what is taking place. We've got a list of guests that are that it's building, and it's going to be more work, but it's going to be enjoyable, and I just can't wait. I just can't wait to get this new experience going. And that doesn't mean that the podcast, as you're able to hear it, will change. You will still be able to hear us on our the different audio podcast platforms that are out there. SoundCloud, you will be able to hear us on Radio Republic and many other audio based podcasts, but you will be able to actually sit down in your home and watch us, or sit in front of your phone and watch and see the interaction as well. So this is a definite change, and it's a change for me because it means it's more work. I'm not even gonna lie, it's more work. Doing the podcast the way we do it is so much fun, but when you're doing it for visual, when you're doing it for and I don't even like to say TV anymore because this is so much more vast. But when you're doing it for a larger media such as TV, and you're doing it for like YouTube and all these other things, all these other visual platforms, it changes so much. changes so much. So I'm super excited about that, and I just can't wait. Our first guest, I should say our first show, we will have Mike Cameron. And I know a lot of you heard the show with Mike Cameron, but to actually sit down and have the visual is way more powerful. And I'm super excited with that. As we go for it, we also have Tim James, who is going to be on the show. If you don't know who Tim James is, please look that up. Organic body, building a whole healthy bodies through organic lifestyle and living is going to be awesome. And the other guests I can't even begin to talk to you about because pardon me, just because it's so much new, powerful, and just amazing content. We want to keep some things as a surprise for you, but this is one of the changes that's coming up. And that change is going to be that, yes, we are now adding television to our repertoire of platforms. So this is going to be just so exciting, and I'm extra excited. And this is going into our 8th season. We're starting our 8th season. So this is super exciting for me, super exciting for the staff and everybody else, because this is just going to be an amazing thing. So that's one of the new changes right there that's going on. We're going to take a break just because we've got some other things coming up. We're going to talk about sports. That's right. Do you give a damn if sports is back? I don't. We're going to talk about that up next, right after this. Hey everyone, we hope that you're enjoying the interview thus far. We'd just like to take some quick time out to remind everybody to like, follow, share, and subscribe. With every like, follow, share, and subscription, it helps the Daylight Fit podcast to grow. And the more we grow, the more information we can bring to you, the listener. So please, take some time out, like, follow, share, and subscribe. Thank you. So sports is back. Basketball is playing. I think baseball has been playing for I don't know how long, but and I know they're still in training where it comes to football and getting ready for the season to start. Question to everybody out there: who really gives a damn? I mean, let's just be honest. Who really cares right now about sports? I know some individuals are thinking like, well, it's a distraction from everything that's taking place, but I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't want to be distracted. I really don't. And I started talking about this earlier, but the truth of it is that me being a hometown guy, and before I even get into this, I want everybody to understand I am a sports fan. I'm not a fanatic, but I am a sports fan. The truth of it is that being a hometown guy means diehard Phillies, diehard Sixers, diehard Eagles, bleed green, Green Nation. That's been me for a long time. And I love the sense of camaraderie I have with my fellow Philadelphians, being a Philadelphian, being in this environment of it's us against them, not in a negative way, not in a derogatory way, but in that sense of pride of Philadelphia is versus everybody. Philadelphia versus New York, Philadelphia versus LA. It's that sense of pride, and I'm talking about it in a positive manner. That's the thing where it comes to sports and me. It's that feeling of competition. But let's be very, very specific. Let's be very honest. In this climate, is that what's needed? And I honestly feel like, no, it's not needed at all. We don't need that right now. We are in a pandemic state still. Coronavirus is still very much going on. It's still making people sick. There's a lot of questions. People are still dealing with social distancing. People are still dealing with the social unrest, and that feeling of pride, whereas it's us against them, needs to be put aside. That competition of sports needs to be put aside to focus on the greater good. And the greater good is that there are situations right now that need more attention. Our health, our fitness, our mental fitness, our spiritual alignment needs to be dealt with. Now, yes, do we need a diversion from some of this? Yes, we do. A healthy diversion at times to step away from it. The problem, I feel, is that we have been diverting our attention way longer than we need to. Way longer than we need to. So when I see sports coming back, and I won't forget, I forget who it was. It was a guest that was on here. Bill Kazuya. Bill Kazuya was on here. No, not Bill Kazuya. I think it was the retail king. That's who it was. Bob. Oh my God, I feel so bad. I forgot his name, but he was on the show. You know what? I'm gonna pop him up so I can quote him. But when Bob Phibbs, that's who it was. Sorry, Bob. I'm so sorry. And he talked about it. He said, when we start to see sports come back, that'll be a sign that things are about to get back to normal. Well, guess what? Sports are back, but I don't see things getting back to normal. Our children are getting ready to go back to school virtually. We are still, even though we're certain shops or restaurants are still in business, inside dining is not being allowed in certain areas. When you go to certain states, for example, a friend of mine, he just went to Anchorage, Alaska. He pulled in and they're stopping everybody. Before you even come out of that plane, that terminal, you're getting tested. So the thing of it is that this is not normal. Essentially, when you go from one state to another, if that state rules that you came out of a state that has a high COVID concentration, you must go into a mandatory quarantine before you even step out into the public. That could start to be that is something that's taking place right now. But what if that's the standard thing? That means that a trip to New York City, for me, someplace that I often like to go to see friends, family, to hang out, could potentially take 3 weeks. Honestly. You know what I mean? It could potentially take 3 weeks. If I want to go and hang out, and that's not 3 weeks of me hanging out in the city. That's me in a hotel room or wherever I'm staying for 2 weeks. And then going out and doing what I need to do. Now, I know many of you are like, it's not going to get to that, or it might not be that way. We don't know what it's going to be, honestly. We really don't know what it's going to be. I'm just saying to say that this is the new normal. It's the new change. It's just like after 9/11. After 9/11, remember when you could go before 9/11, you could go into an airplane terminal and you could feel pretty much like, okay, I'm just going to fly on this plane. The only thing I got to go through the checkout and security, but you weren't worried about security in the sense of it was serious. You might get arrested. If somebody acted out, or if you acted a little bit of a fool, they'll detain you. Somebody get arrested. It wasn't a huge thing. Now, anybody acts out, you are potentially looked at as a terrorist. You're potentially looked at if somebody acts out on a plane or in an airport. Essentially, none of us think, oh, that's somebody just with a mental problem, something like that. The first thing we have been conditioned to think is it's a terroristic act. What's going on? Is it terrorist? What? That's the truth. This is the world we live in now. So the reason I'm saying that is the fact of sports are back, but what does it really matter? Or where do we really place it in our minds? Where do we properly place it? Because it was probably disproportionately placed anyway. I know that's an argument for many people. I'm going to disagree with some of the people out there who have said that, oh man, we should be paying teachers just as high a salary or higher salaries than we pay these athletes. You know what? That's BS. I mean, honestly, it's a lot different, but I think not to say that teachers shouldn't be paid a high salary. I think they should be paid way more than they're paid. Way more. I think a teacher should feel very comfortable being a teacher if that's the field that they chose. However, an athlete who is in the public spotlight day in, day out, who has endorsement deals and no, come on, let's just be honest. It's not going to happen. But the truth of it is, that we are living in different times. This is a new era. We have to think differently. And for me, when I see sports, I don't have the same feeling of sports that I used to have. That feeling I used to get is like, it's not really as important, because there's so many more things that's more important going on than what we were conditioned to deal with. And when all those things are taken away, when they cease, when they stop, when everybody seems to be on equal footing, because nobody can go out, nobody's doing these other things, that's when we start paying attention to the social unrest that was really taking place, because we're like, wow, nobody else has anything else that can distract us. Pandemic takes place, we all have to sit down, slow down, look at ourselves. Were we really as clean a society as we could have been? And you have people argue, oh, you're germaphobes and things like that. You know what? That's one thing to think of, but when you're dealing with foreign substances that have been created by human beings that affect human beings, that's another thing as well. I mean, and when I say created, I want to be very, very, very specific, meaning that we have created vaccines, and we have also created other living situations. So when I say this, I'm going to try to clean. I could hear one of my friends saying, try and clean it up now, son. Vaccinations, I would say, or vaccines, I don't feel are bad. What I feel is that the conditions that most human beings live under are not conducive to the health of overall humanity or the growth of humanity. And I feel that the way we practice our medicine or our health care, what takes place is that we practice bandage medicine. Oh, you got a cut? There you go. Patch it up. Put a Band-Aid on it. Oh, you got this? Here you go. Put a Band-Aid on it. There you go. Oh, you feel your head's hurting you? Here you go. This will mask the symptoms. You won't feel that. But we don't really deal with the actual symptom or the actual pain, the actual thing that's causing it. We just want to get rid of the discomfort. That's like having a toothache and then somebody giving something to you to protect or stop the tooth from aching, but your tooth, that root is still rotting. It's still dying. And it's going to keep on dying. But you keep on taking the same thing over and over and over just to stop that pain. Finally, that root has died. There's something serious and you're still taking something to mask it. Well, now you're bringing something on. And that's what we do. That's what I feel that we majorly do in our society. We don't take care of the problem. We just take care of the result of the problem. So, for us in this country, sports, to me, is like a Band-Aid. It keeps things, our focus is improperly put on it. Until we get our perspective straight and we really deal with things as they should be dealt with, then then we can possibly get ourselves back to where we need to go. Back to our way of life, back to a sort of normalcy. But we have to deal with these issues. We just have to. That's the change that's going on. We got to keep that focus and pay attention. You know what I mean? Hey, you, with the earbuds in their ear. Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? When I was trying to get my podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions. How do I record an episode? How do I get my show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other places people like to listen? How do I make money from my podcast? The answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now Anchor can match you with great sponsors too, so you can get paid to podcasts. I like to upload my episodes directly to the app and then promote. So if you've always wanted to start a podcast, make money doing it. Go to anchor.fm/start to join me in the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast. So this again has been a very unique show. The topic of change being the focus, speaking about what's going on around our country, speaking about what's going on in our neighborhoods, talking about what's going on with the show. Much has changed, much is going to continue to change, and much is going to be the focus point for all of us as we go forward. Again, I just want to say that the De La Fit podcast will continue to be here to bring the biggest and the best and the brightest where it comes to health, fitness, information for you in that 360-degree sphere. Because that's truly how we are going to be able to adapt and progress throughout life to the next level. We have to think of each challenge as it comes as another level for us to pass, almost like a video game, and I don't want anybody to misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not saying that life is a game. I'm just using this as an example, that there are levels to everything. It gets sometimes to be very, very passe to use certain terms. And I know we hear this often, but it is quite true. There are levels to everything. Sometimes we look back on things and we think to ourselves, you know what? It's good that we went through that situation. It's good that I went through that struggle. I came out on the other side and I was a stronger individual. And that's what truly everything is making us as individuals as well as a collective society. It's making us stronger. It's making us more aware. It's opening our minds to other possibilities. Where the negative is growing, we are finding new ways to surpass it and grow stronger in the positive. It's one of the most important things about life, progressing in the positive, going forward, moving forward, not remaining stagnant or still. It is a very important thing for all of us. It is a skill that has to continuously be cultivated. We must keep that focus. And we will. Change is inevitable and unchangeable. It's always going to be there. We might as well prepare ourselves for the change. As always, thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in to the De La Fit podcast. We are always interested in hearing your feedback. If If you ever want to reach out to us, please contact us at daylifit13@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on our website, which is www.daylifitpodcast.com. We are also on all social media. That is Facebook at Daylifit Podcast. That is Twitter at Daylifit Podcast. Yep, sounds like somebody just hit us up. Also on Instagram at DE_LA_fit podcast. As always, be happy, be healthy, treat yourself right. I know if you treat yourself right and with mindfulness, you will. I'm very, very confident you will do your best to treat others the same. Thank you. Be safe. Be peaceful. Have a great weekend.
You've been listening to the Delafit podcast. Ta-ta for now.